Mr. Mayor, City Council, representatives, extended family. I'd like to welcome Zorya, our Ukrainian ensemble. We're first going to raise the American-Ukrainian flag, and they are going to sing the American national anthem for us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose dark stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rocked where the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануєм і ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу, тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу, тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Beautiful, very, very beautiful. Now I have one of our younger members of our community to say a few words. My son, Darian Kolchitsky.
August 16, 1999. On this day, Russia's notorious tyrant Vladimir Putin became prime minister. 6 months later, he was sworn into the presidency. One of Putin's first presidential acts was the renewed continuation of the Second Chechen War, a conflict meant to extinguish Chechnya's thirst for independence. Chechnya, a region in southwestern Russia, had declared independence in 1991, establishing a democratic republic, much like Ukraine's. Putin sought to establish dominance by restoring the Russian Empire. Through brutal murders of civilians and soldiers alike, he seized the capital of Grozny on February 2, 2000. 3 months later, a pro-Moscow government was propped up and Chechnya forcefully incorporated into Russia. The world watched in silence. In the aftermath, the United Nations declared the Chechen capital city of Grozny the most destroyed city on the planet. The death toll was over 250,000 civilians. Russian soldiers were charged with rape, arson, torture, and other crimes by the Human Rights Watch. Putin devastated the free people of Chechnya under the guise of helping them. Nowadays, this lie sounds all too familiar. But Chechnya was only the beginning of Putin's Soviet reunion. The Democratic Republic of Georgia was next. For years, the regions of South Ossetia and Abkhazia had been disputed territories. Seeing an opportunity, Putin began siphoning money and Russian passports into the two regions, fueling a pro-Moscow revolution. Consequently, the regions declared independence. Putin then accused Georgia of committing genocide to justify the start of the Russo-Georgian War. Sound frighteningly familiar? In the beginning of Ukraine's conflict, Putin accused Ukraine of committing genocide within the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, calling for the expulsion of Ukraine's neo-Nazi government. An all too familiar habit emerged. Putin recognized the independence of a country's quote-unquote breakaway regions, then accused the target country with ridiculous claims. This pattern had been prevalent from the inception of Putin's presidency. For 22 years, the world has watched Vladimir Putin destroy Eastern Europe and remold it into his own private empire. Chechnya, Belarus, Georgia, Syria, Transnistria, Ukraine. Who is next on Russia's hit list? Where will Putin send his death squads in a peaceful military operation? Let us remember that almost 100 years ago, Joseph Stalin proclaimed himself the sole dictator of the Soviet Union, whose reign lasted for 25 years. Benito Mussolini's reign lasted 21 years, and Hitler's 12. Putin has already surpassed some of history's deadliest dictators in terms of time spent in office and is racing to surpass Stalin himself. His inhumane and brutalist warfare upon former Soviet states has destroyed millions and continues to this day. The world watches his utter disregard for peace as cluster bombs and missiles bombard maternity wards, hospitals, kindergartens, and civilian homes. Vladimir Putin is not a man, but a monster. It has only taken the world 2 decades to realize. With that, I would like to thank everyone here for their overwhelming support. Taking time out of your busy schedules to protest the atrocities being committed is one small step towards victory. Your donations, hard work, and medical efforts sustain the Ukrainian people that fight against tyranny. Finally, I would like to thank Mayor Biasada and the City Council of Seven Hills for having us. Thank you for standing with the Ukrainian people at such a pivotal time. We will not forget your kindness and hospitality. As a Ukrainian American, I urge all of you to continue speaking out against the evil and atrocities of Vladimir Putin. Continue to spread the truth to your fellow Americans. To quote Erwin Gruwell, silence ensures that history repeats itself. Let the world know that we will not stand idle as Putin terrorizes Eastern Europe. We will not stand as Russia denies any sort of conflict in Ukraine. We will not stand as missiles storm the capital. Let Putin know that the courage of the Ukrainian people will never die. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Now I'd like to ask Mayor Anthony Biasara to say a few words.
Thank you. It might be more than a few words. A little warmer than the last time I stood with you on the steps of Promise City Hall, huh? It's one thing that's trending better in the right direction. I first want to recognize my fellow leaders here in Seven Hills, the Law Director Richard Pignatello, Councilman Richard Delaquila, Councilman at Large John Kuyu, Council President Phil Carrazas. In the back we got Councilman Snitsky, Councilman Pat Elliott, and Councilwoman Stacy Kelly. Also in the crowd I see, yep, right there. We have a couple elected officials from the city of Parma. Earlier I saw Councilman Kevin Kuzmal, and of course Councilwoman whose home is Ukrainian Village, Kristen Sabin. I'll try to be a little less emotional than I was last week, but believe me, it's still there. The fire is still there. And introduce two other people here that are very important to what we're doing here locally and nationally. We got Judge Burke from the American Nationalities Organization, and Pierre Jani from the Cameo Group, that's the Cleveland Area Middle Eastern Organization, and Seven Hills resident. Let me tell you why that's important. Like I said, this is not an American thing, it's not a Ukrainian thing, it's not a Russian thing. It's good versus evil. And all nationalities from all around the country, whether it be Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the entire Middle East, the Midwest of the United States, left coast, right coast, we are together with the Ukrainian community for as long as it takes. Since that terrible day of February 24th, when the man whose name I will no longer pronounce invaded a peaceful nation, my thoughts and prayers have been with you morning, noon, and night, and that will not stop until this atrocity is over and justice is brought to bear on that individual for the war crimes committed against humanity, and particularly the people of Ukraine. For all the terrible things going on, I want us to think about the good things that have come about. This tragedy's brought nations together, it's brought people together from many different ethnic backgrounds, many different cities. We are all together today and stand on the side of righteousness and good. And it's our pledge that I, all the leaders of Seven Hills, and I know darn well the residents of Seven Hills, are today and for always members of the Ukrainian community. And that's all good. Talk is good, thoughts and prayers are incredibly important, and I'm going to get back to that. But what we need, I need to encourage. Thoughts and prayers are great. Action is better. Last week I addressed you all, and I called to keep the pressure on our leaders so that we do not buy any oil or gas from Russia. Today, that has happened. We are no longer buying from Russia. So our opinions matters. We need to take action. We need to think globally and act locally. Keep the pressure on all our leaders so that we continue to give Ukraine what they need to win this conflict. What they need to provide the humanitarian comfort and basic needs of life to the almost 3 million refugees that have been forced out of their country. So we keep the pressure on, and those brave men and women that are fighting for their freedom, the thing we enjoy and take for granted sometimes in the United States on a daily basis, we need to do our part at home, and I know we all will. I also want to keep in our prayers today, there's brave Russians out there that are standing up to their government. They're protesting in the streets, they're getting on media, and they're saying, stop this evil war, darn well knowing it'll lead to imprisonment, torture, or worse. And they deserve to be in our prayers too. Today, Seven Hills, tomorrow, Washington, and in the weeks ahead, the world. People will hear you. There's the power of social media. If we stay united, there's nothing we can't defeat. I have a proclamation for the local Ukrainian group I'd like to present. When this is over, I invite everyone in for our council meeting. Seven Hills City Council is going to honor this group in the Ukrainian committee with a resolution this evening. So, to wrap this up, therefore be it resolved that I, Anthony Biassiata, Mayor of the City of Seven Hills, together with the city officials and on behalf of all residents of Seven Hills, do hereby stand in solidarity with our Ukrainian American community and the brave citizens of Ukraine. They are facing their darkest hour against the savage onslaught of the armies of the Russian Federation. We recognize all those who are fighting for freedom and democracy in Ukraine and all the casualties and sacrifices that are being made by those in Ukraine. We hold dear in our hearts the families that have taken up arms for this just cause and stand with Ukraine while an atrocity is being committed on its homeland. This proclamation will be delivered to Oksana Markovova, the ambassador of Ukraine. That's from me, and council is going to recognize this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Godspeed to all those in Ukraine, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Beautifully said, beautifully said. And now we have Zoria singing a few more songs for you.
Ой, у лузі червона калина похилилася, чогось наша славна Україна зажурилася, а ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей-гей, розвеселимо, а ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей-гей, розвеселимо. Марширують наші добровольці у кривавий стан, визволяти братів українців з московських кайдан. А ми наших братів українців визволимо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей-гей, розвеселимо. А ми наших братів українців визволимо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей-гей, розвеселимо. Ой, у полі ярої пшениці золотистий лан, розпочали стрільці українці з москалями тлан. А ми тую ярою Україну, гей, гей, розвеселимо. А ми тою ярою пшеницю і зберемо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей, гей, розвеселимо. Як повіє буйнесенький вітер широких степів, то прославить по всій Україні січових стрільців. А ми тую стрілецькую славу збережемо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей, гей, розвеселимо. А ми тую стрілецькою славу збережемо, а ми нашу славну Україну, гей, гей, розвеселимо.
Come on, let's send this to him because